Hello, my friends. Greetings and welcome to a lesson all about flower dissection. This is going to be a very, very beautiful lesson, right? Of course. What you're going to need is some flowers, maybe some different types. And you'll also need a piece of paper. And I've chosen a dark piece of paper because I want to be able to see the different parts very easily, but also think of pollen and other things, some small things. A dark piece of paper will make it pretty easy. I also have some labels because it's going to be a little bit harder to write the names of things on there. And I've brought some tools. A sharp knife, and some tweezers, and just in case, I have a pair of scissors as well. Be careful when working with these sharp things. You don't want to poke your own fingers or cut your own fingers. You just want to use them on the flowers to get all those parts separated. I've also got my higher quality camera here to point it in and really show you some of those parts. All right, well, let's get started. Why don't we investigate one of the biggest, easiest to dissect flowers? We've got a beautiful tulip. And something I want to say is I took this tulip from my garden. There were quite a few tulips there, but if there had only been a couple, I might have thought again about taking this one. And I'd ask you, before you take flowers, make sure you have permission, whether it's from a neighbor or from your parents. You don't want to take too many flowers either, especially if you're in a public place. Those flowers are for people to enjoy. So I definitely encourage you to look around your own property for beautiful flowers. Wild flowers are great too, but again, the same thing. If there's only one little wild flower, think that plant needs to meet its needs. If you take its only means of doing that, well, anyway, let's take a look. I think one of the easiest things to do first is to remove the petals. And let's go ahead and write out a beautiful label for petals. And we'll put all the petals from all the flowers next to it. Okay, I'm going to move my tools over to the side. They're still going to be here, but I do want some room. Petals can be easy. They can also be pretty difficult. I very much like using the tweezers and this little penknife to be able to remove some of these things. Give it a nice little snip at the bottom. Sometimes scissors might be the way to go, but I think I've got this one. All right. Okay, and there's one petal. Ooh, there we go. Let's see if I can get this next one here. Sometimes, if you just bend it the right way, it might even just pop right off. Okay, and there's another petal. And now I can actually see inside some of those other parts. And I'm noticing that there's some powder falling out here. I'll grab the other camera in a moment and show you. I believe we've got some pollen escaping. Okay, and notice we've got petals of different sizes and shapes. There's these bigger, rounder petals, and then there's this one right here. Sort of an interesting shape there, huh? Let's take the other camera and just do a little bit of investigating in there so you can see what that looks like. Look at that, and you can see very easily now. What's that? That's the anther, right? On top of that filament right there. And look, pollen's falling right out of it. That whole thing there is the stamen. Look at that pollen falling on there, and it even fell on the paper as well. We've got these big, beautiful petals, and then another one of those weird ones, and I wonder what that is hiding under there. Let's find out. Okay, to get in there, I'm going to need to cut a little bit of these ones out of the way. There we go. And what is that we just revealed? Oh, that's right. That would be the pistil. Let's take a closer look at that pistil. Look at that pistil. You can see the top, the stigma there. That's that stigma right there. And that's very sticky. You can even see there's a little bit of pollen sticking to it already. That would be responsible for catching all the pollen from the visitors and also from the wind potentially too. Let's keep going. And I'll show you that you can also use scissors pretty easily. Take off that last petal there. And the actual last petal there too. Cool. Oh, looks like we got a stamen as well. All right. There's all the petals. And you know what? I think I want to group these petals, these weird ones next to each other, and the bigger ones that look sort of similar right with each other. Fantastic. Let's take a look at what we have left. There are those stamen, and there's that pistil right in the center there. Pretty cool, huh? Well, what do you notice is not really on this flower? Maybe you've noticed there's a piece missing here. Well, not necessarily missing, though. The calyx doesn't appear to be here, but actually, the calyx might be some of these petals over here. There are different kinds of flowers with some different kinds of parts. Sometimes we have a perianth, which is the sepals and outer petals combined. All right. So we do have stamen and a pistil, so I'm going to write a label for each of those. There's stamen. And how about red for pistil? Awesome. Let's get back to work. Okay. And I see we've got a stamen coming off there. That's hanging by a thread. There we go. And there's another one. And there's our last one. Huh, look at that. There's 3 stamen. 3 stamen. They're pretty cool looking. And there's that pistil right there. Okay. And there's the stem. We can just put that aside for now. And let's try out another flower. We can compare some of these parts. You know, we went really big. Why don't we go really small? I've got this beautiful, beautiful little purple flowers here. Oh, wow. Do they smell beautiful. And, you know, each of these seems to be a flower. I'm going to have to snip one of these off to take a closer look. So my scissors are very carefully going to go in here and snip one right off. There it is. Ooh, this one's going to be strange. Let's get a closer look in there. Look at that flower and how tiny it is. Even smaller than the pistil from that last plant, the tulip. Well, let's see if we can open this one up. I see the corolla, do you? Okay, definitely going to have to use my tweezers for this one. Ooh, I think I might have to, it seems like the petals are fused, which can happen sometimes. We don't really seem to have separate petals, and also I don't really see a calyx on this either. This is going to be a difficult one, but I think with some patience I'll get in there. Wow, okay. So I'm able to remove the petals, and there's some kind of sweet sticky liquid in here. It's getting all over the place. Ooh, we're not going to be able to dissect this flower much more than we have. Its parts are so tiny. I'm going to have to show you on the other camera to get a good look. So look very carefully. Here's our teeny tiny flower. There's a little stem going out to it. That green bit right there, that would probably be the ovary, and attached to that, I don't know if you can even see that clearly, is the pistil. And then around that, the little black and white and yellow things, those would be the stamen. Look at that. The whole flower is smaller than the pistils and stamen from the tulip. It's pretty crazy. But it does happen. Well, this one we're not going to be able to organize into all these other places, but let's just put it aside for now. And let's pick out another flower. You know, the dandelion is a good trusty flower. Look at that. And we can actually see the calyx, the sepals are all down underneath that. But as far as the stamen or the pistils, where would those even be? Well, let's look a little closer at the flower and see if maybe you can detect them. Look closely in there, and you'll see there's these wider, larger yellow petals in the corolla, and then inside you see there's these little curly things. Completely different, right? Do you think those are the stamen? Do you think those are the pistils? What do you think? Well, let's do our best to take some pieces from this one and see what we can find. Okay. For this one, I'm going to need to make a new label for sepals. And I'll put those sepals right up over here next to the petals. Okay. These we might be able to just pull right off. Let's find out. Not so easily. A little bit tougher. Okay, let's see if we can use that knife to get in there. I got one sepal, and it's super tiny. And there's a lot more. I think it's going to take a long time to get all these sepals off. They're not always coming off in a complete piece. Well, let's then, in this case, let's see if we can get our flower in half so we can maybe look a little bit closer at what's happening inside. Oh, wow. There's quite a story happening in here, and I think I'd like to get the other camera out to show you. Upon cutting this dandelion open, look, there's almost like a fluffiness inside. It's a very fluffy flower. As I push on, you can see all these little fibers and such. So trying to sort out all the parts of this flower might be really difficult, but it does seem like we've got stamen and pistils here. You can see that little separate bit. It's much different than one of these outer petals. Much different than these green bits here too. Look at that. So I don't think we're going to be able to pull all the parts out of this one, but let's see what we can get out of it. All right. This is worth looking at even closer. Look at that.
Sort of hard to focus on, huh? Look at that. See that little bit rising up? Pretty cool, huh?
Very hard to identify, though, being so tiny. Well, we'll put the dandelion to the side for now. That one's going to be a tough one. Maybe you're having a little more luck with the flowers that you chose. I got one more flower here. It's also tiny. I'm going to have to pull this one out with the tweezers because it's very tiny. There's that one right there. It's got a nice, beautiful pinky purple kind of flower at the top, and let's get a really close look at that one. So there's that flower. You can see it's got some very specialized petals. The shape is quite different. Take a good look at that. There we go. Almost no flower for the plant, right? Very tiny bit of it. And you see it sort of has what looks almost like a little piece that can move there. Get that right there. It's got a different shape than the other petals too. Let's do a little bit of dissection and see what we can find. But it's so tiny, I don't know if I can do anything with this one. Well, let's take the flower off first. We can put that stem to the side. Wow, that is quite a flower. I'm going to cut right up the side and then look inside and see if I can see anything. That's very strange. I'll show you what I'm seeing in here as well. This little flower, I opened it up and there's just nothing inside of it. I can't quite tell what part is the petal or the stamen or the pistil or I don't know. It's a very strange one. But you can see we have very different flowers here, very different sizes, very different shapes. This tiniest one here, you can still very clearly see the parts. It's like a miniature version of our tulip, which had these much bigger parts here. And maybe you remember the amaryllis had really visible parts as well. But then looking at such a tiny one here, its petals are very strangely shaped. Doesn't seem to be having some of the parts we're noticing on others, just like this dandelion here. Pistils in the stamen are so tiny it's hard to tell which one is which. But maybe you've got all sorts of other plants and flowers growing near you, and you can share with me the parts that you find. Also, please check out the parts of the flower and the parts of the flower lessons to get a good look at what a complete flower looks like and what parts you might be able to identify. Have fun dissecting your flowers, scientists, and enjoy all those beautiful colors, scents, and patterns.